Uh, Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to another episode of Life with Siphe. Thank you for joining me. And remember, if you haven't, right now, pause, stop, look for the subscribe section, and press subscribe so you can be the first one to know about my videos when I upload. So this is also very not planned. I was not expecting to upload another video so soon, but I'm glad I did because like inspiration just went poof, right? So this episode is called Ancestors, right? My core, the foundation of my channel is self. It's who are you, right? And so you'll find that all my episodes are linked to this one concept, which is who are you? And we are made up of different components that we have to work at individually in order to become a whole person, right? A healthy, whole functioning person, that is. And so what has inspired me today is listening to an old song by an artist in South Africa called Budringo Madlingozi, featuring Usis Tembisile. Budringo being an icon, especially in my culture, as we come from the same tribe, if you want to say it, if you want to call it that way, Engumxhosa and Ndingumxhosa myself. And like, he's one of the artists who's got so much history, heritage, and who he is transcends through his music. And it's been such a driving force in the South African music industry. His writing skills, he sings in his language. He's for me an icon and a legend. But coming back to today's episode, Ancestors. Now, my understanding is, just like the saying goes, if you do not know where you come from, you are going to be confused about where you're going. So it is important to always go back and retrace your steps. And in this case, not particularly physically your steps, but your spiritual steps, your ancestors, who you are, what makes you what you are, why you feel or respond to things the way you do. Want to make an example to you in terms of products. When a product is made, bleach for instance, we are given bleach and then there are what ingredients of how the bleach is made. These ingredients help us to know that, oh my gosh, if I put bleach in this and this is what the result is going to be due to it having A, B, C, D ingredient which reacts in a certain way to a certain situation. And that's what we are as human beings. Sometimes, as a person, do you ever just react to something and think to yourself, I don't want to make anger as an example, but sometimes you ever just think to yourself, why did I just snap like that? And sometimes it's because you really just have an issue and you need to deal with it. But when you sit down and you think about it and you hear stories and you understand yourself more, then you'll find that there's something within your nature that just does not go hand in hand with whatever situation that keeps on making you snap. And you will find that it does not just come from you physically, like yourself, like the flesh you touch, but from your ancestors, which in my culture you call ukufuza, meaning inheritance, and not in the way you think about it, like materialistically speaking. No, what you inherit, your genes, if you want to take it that way, right? Now, me always being the case study in this case, I am constantly struggling with what I'm doing right. How does it feel to me? Am I still on the right journey? Am I fulfilling my purpose the correct way? And that is where my compass is, my ancestors. In everything I do, I'm very self-aware of how something makes me feel, how it makes me react, why it makes me react that way. And then I think to myself, okay, if I feel a certain way, I try and find out. If something doesn't sit right with me, I try and find out from my ancestors. In this case, for me, I am grateful that I have a mother that is so educated in terms of my culture. I am grateful for my grandmother, who's 96 years old, which I call isinyanya esiphilayo esihambayo esihleliyo, who has been a spiritual teacher for me, a religious teacher, just one of the people who have molded me, and therefore part of my roots. And from her, we get the window of all the people that came before her, understanding my family better, my people better, and therefore understanding that when it comes to the world, there are things I will not subscribe to, not because I can't. I believe anyone can learn anything and understand it and know it and do it. But remember, things sometimes do not work out because you are not meant to be in that sphere is not where you thrive. And that goes back to your roots, to your ancestors. Now let's put that in that block, right? Another picture that I think as people we struggle with. I'm going to talk specifically in my context, and that is now African consciousness. As a black young woman, everything I knew at a certain point was everything I was being told, and I was being taught by adults. And first and foremost, I'm told, and I was raised to respect anyone older than me, and therefore their word was a bond sort of thing, and that they were always right, which we have come to understand that it is not the case. And therefore it is our responsibility as people to go and find out the truth, what it means to be you, what it means to be your people. And like I said, now in my context, what does it mean to be African? And I cannot find that from people who are not like me, if that makes sense. And by that I mean other races and other ethnicities, other like cultures. Chinese people, for example, truly thrive because they are stemmed so much in their roots and who they are, and they do not let other cultures come in and tell them yeah this that and then subscribe to it, and then when it fails it's like, but why do we think things would work out when other cultures are dictating a culture that's not even their own? So it's our responsibility to know our own culture and to educate ourselves. And this thought for me was stemmed from reading a powerful post, please go check it out, of the artist I was telling you about, on Instagram, talking about a book he's read about a book about Steve Biko. And again, another hero of South Africa who I feel his spirit lives on, especially within the youth. Now, I'm going to try and hopefully I'm making sense to you right now. I'm going to try and bring all these things together. What I want to drive home about this video is that the breed I am feeding with my knowledge and my experiences as I go through them is an era where sometimes as individuals who are in this process, who are in this journey, we feel so alone and we think, what are we doing? Like the world is not supportive of wanting us human beings to thrive at our best form as who we are. The world is not acceptive, is not in an accepting nature to who you truly are, accepting your faults and your advantages, right? It wants you to conform. And so this is me saying that voice, even if we voice the small, we are there, and slowly and surely behind the pictures we are connecting. I've been meeting so many great people who are also in the journey of self-identity, and more particularly Black and African consciousness, where my vision one day is to create platforms where all of this information is there, and artists that are pushing that agenda have platforms that will teach future generations about identity. Because people, if you do not know where you come from or who you are, you will never know where you are going. It is that simple. Now, I'm going to ask you to ask yourself, necessarily, I dislike that I even have to ask, when things go wrong, where do you look to? Where do you try and go back to the drawing board and figure out what went wrong? Because we're not even supposed to just be looking at these things when things go wrong. Just in general, where is your source of strength? My source of strength is in my ancestors, and I still am learning about them and understanding them and the connection to God. Because for a long time growing up, I had a confusion of feeling like if I agree on this whole thing called ancestors, then that means I'm saying ancestors of God, which is not it. And I've also come to learn some people call ancestors angels. Because what are angels? Angels are people looking after us, it is said. But it depends on what you believe in. But for me, what I believe in is that everything that I do, I am a spirit that has been passed down of a people that was built on certain morals and values. And what I know is important to me, I feel is a connection that is something that is being communicated to me, that it is something that has been important from generations before I even came. And that is why I have so much pride and so much, even when I want to give up, I understand that it is not just about me. There's a bigger picture to all of this. So utilize the information that you have. The ones that you don't have, go try and find out. Here's another funny thing I was thinking about and laughing with my friend. Just a little side note. We are talking about how back home in South Africa, when you live in the city and you do something wrong to your parents or whatever, then they tell you they're going to send you to the village. And everyone's always like, oh, I don't want to go back to the village, because obviously, let's think of like things are obviously more different in terms of like transportation and such and such and such. And so we as the youth, we sometimes feel like, oh, it's such a bad thing. But I feel like that's actually, if you realize, when we as kids are sent back to our villages, we come back with so much more inner strength that we do not realize. And then we come into the city, and then the city just messes everything up, and then it's just like, what am I doing? And then the two just don't connect. But I really believe that our villages, our heritage, that is where our source comes from. And we need to educate ourselves. This is me. I am calling out to you to go educate yourself about your people, about where you come from, about your family tree. If uyakwazi uzithutha uthi nginoZulu bafana uxhumana utheleze wena walithukela ngoba nibambelele bulembini abaqhawuka, then go find that out. You know what I mean? Because that, for me, used to be something I'd be like, when someone asks me, Siphe, what is your clan name? What is Dogosako? And I just look at them like, But now I say it with so much pride. And every time I say it, I feel something ignite in me. Because my being is being fed and is being reminded about who it is and where it comes from. And its purpose, people. Its purpose. So go find out, what is your ancestry, where do you come from? Find that oldest person in your family. If you even can, go back to where you come from, whether it is the village, whether it is your old family house, even if you need to go to Emangcwabeni. I promise you, by doing that, you will have unturned at least one stone and gotten closer, even if it's by one step, to finding out who you are, what makes you tick, and what is making you the person that you currently are. And it will for sure guide you to where you need to be and need to get to in life. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for sitting and listening. Remember to share my channel with your friends and family. Life with Siphe. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your love and support. And don't forget to subscribe. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Till the next episode. Remember, do that thing that makes you, man. Bye. Till next time.